oftentimes we talk to young couples and young parents, and the question we get is, does it feel this chaotic forever? Because having a family, and it really doesn't matter if you have, 1 kid, 2 kids, 5 kids, 6 kids, being a parent is a lot about managing chaos. You're raising a young human being. When they're really little, they suck at being a human being. Then they get a little bit older and they're a little better at being a human being, but by that point they're 12 or 13 and they want to be an adult, but they suck at that. So you got to train them all the way along the way, and it feels a lot like managing chaos.
Yep.
The problem with managing chaos is that it is a parenting trap. Because as parents, we're not called to manage the day-to-day chaos. That's necessary, but that's not the calling. The calling of parents is to manage the legacy.
Let's get into that.
Before we jump into today's show, I wanted to ask you to check out our website, brand new website, marriagebydesignpodcast.com. That's marriagebydesignpodcast.com. All of our episodes are available there on that website. Love to have you pop over there, follow us there, and check it out.
If you have a topic that you're wanting more information on or you have questions about, you can search on our website by topic, which is a really great feature.
That's right. And more than anything, guys, please share this with someone that would find it meaningful for them. Without any more delay, let's get to the show. Hey, everybody. I'm Nathan Warnock.
I'm Andrea Warnock, and you've joined us for the Marriage by Design podcast, a time that we get to talk to you guys about God's design for marriage, what the Bible has to say about that, and how we live that out practically.
So as we kick this episode off, and we are talking about parenting as legacy builders, right? It's not just making sure your kids don't, the old country songs like, my parents are just trying to keep, my sister off the pole and my son out of jail, right? Like that's a ridiculous mindset of parenting, but it's one that we fall into so easily. Like we're just trying to make sure our kids aren't super embarrassing adults.
Yeah. Parenting is not about making sure that they're not a bad reflection on you.
Right. It's about being an architect of something. When you're an architect, when you're a builder, most of the time you're not building something because you want it to look good or be good 10 years or 15 years from now. You're building it because you want it to look good or be good 100 years from now, 200 years from now. And I feel like one of the biggest traps that we fall into as married husbands and wives, as well as parents, is we're thinking about right now, right? Like, I've been married for 2 years. We want this marriage when we're at 5 years. We want this marriage when we're at 10 years. And nobody's asking like, well, what impact's your marriage going to have in 150 years? Like, you're not going to be here anymore, but what impact is your marriage going to leave behind? And one of the most important things that our marriage leaves behind is children.
Yep.
We're called straight away in the beginning of Genesis to be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. That means have sex, have babies, raise them up, send them out. That's what that means. Then we learn that is intended specifically, because sex is intended only specifically to be within the confines of marriage. So we're going to add to that a little bit. Get married, have sex, have babies, raise them up, send them out. That's the calling. Now, is that the only purpose of marriage? No, but it sure as heck is one of the foundational ones.
Right. Of course.
So, and we've done several episodes about what about couples that just want to get married and not have kids. So I probably just spoiled the lead of what those episodes were all about, but I would encourage you to go back and read those and see what you think. Because we have definitely turned marriage into something that's mostly about me. And it's just not about you.
Yeah.
It's just not. Biblically, it's not about you. But what we find really interesting is Genesis sets out be fruitful and multiply, and then most of Exodus and Deuteronomy, where we learn about God's laws to the people, so many of those directives that God gives are teach your children. Show your children where I've taken you. Talk about the things that I've done for you.
Mm-hmm.
Build into your children the legacy of my law. And that's what I want to talk about today, because I feel like one of Satan's strategies in the modern family, and it's probably been like this forever, is to get parents focused on just getting through today. Just get through right now. We become managers of the chaos instead of architects of the structure. And we're as guilty of this as anybody, but we're trying really hard. So if this is the first time you stumbled across an episode of ours, we have 6 children, 4 boys, 2 girls. So hear me.
So there's a lot of chaos to
manage.
manage.
Lot of times it feels like managing chaos.
And it is.
Our house. And there, go ahead. Because that's an important distinction. There is a lot of that.
Right. It's not like we're saying, oh, there's no chaos to manage, or we ignore that, or whatever. There certainly is, but there's this overarching, we are including the long term in this. So when we're talking about chaos, like fighting and doing our chores and all that sort of thing, it's not we're doing this to make our lives easier today. We're learning to get along with each other. I just had a conversation with one of my kids. You need telling this child, we need to learn how to have conflict in this home, how to have conflict in a good, productive way, because conflict is going to happen when you're an adult with people in your life, and especially with your spouse. And you need to learn how to have conflict and do it well while you're in my home, so that you can do that in a righteous way when you leave my home.
That's right.
So that sort of thing. Like, I'm not just thinking about, oh my gosh, I need this fight to end, which I do. That it's not true. I'm not just thinking about that. Sometimes I certainly am. Or I need them to do their chores or those kinds of things. We're oftentimes in this home focused on the future, and why is it important that we learn that we were created for, well, why is it important to do chores? Well, in part because we were created to work, and God created humans to glorify him, and we glorify him in one way through work. One of his the first things he told Adam was to
work the garden and subdue it.
Right. And so we are created to do that. And how do we reflect the Lord when we do our chores and when we, live our life and become adults, and
totally
not just constantly looking to, I'm just doing my work to get to the easy part of my day, but rather anyway, so
you need to stop spoiling what we're going to talk about later.
So sorry.
On in the episode.
I know. I'm sorry.
Come on.
So yes, there is a lot of managing the chaos, and there's certainly a lot of moments where we're not pointing to anything in the future. We're just dealing with the one thing right then, right? But we also have a lot of moments where we're talking about why are these things important for what we're building, who we are, who the Lord has asked us to be, and the legacy that we leave behind.
Yeah, so what I want to talk about today are three individual big ideas that I want you guys thinking of. The first thing is we got to get the foundation right. You might be sitting there and going, well, I guess I thought this was a marriage podcast. Why are we talking about parenting? And the answer really is 3 things. We do talk about parenting quite a bit on the Marriage by Design channel because, as I mentioned before, a natural outflowing of the God-honoring, God-designed marriage is children. Second, practically, there are a lot of parents that need good biblical advice, and we want to provide that advice. The third thing is the foundation of raising your kids with a legacy mind is getting your marriage right.
Yeah.
Like if you want to if you were to walk away with nothing except one point from this episode, please walk away with this. The most important thing you can do for your kids is love their mom the way God designed you to love her. Love their dad the way God designed you to love him. If you can get that right, that is going to cover over a multitude of failures in parenting.
Yep.
Because I mean, statistically, there's nothing healthier for your kids emotionally, spiritually, physically, and legacy-wise, meaning there's no greater determinant of the wealth of a child when they grow up than did they grow up in a home where their biological mother was married to their biological father. It's crazy, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
So first thing is get the foundation right, both in your marriage and with you individually. The second thing we're going to talk about is we call it the soup trap, which we talked about a few weeks ago. But that basically is a biblical buzzword based on a Bible story between Esau and Jacob, where Esau was willing to trade the long-term valuable for the right now convenient.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a trap when it comes to building legacy-minded.
Yeah, and it's a trap every day.
That's right.
Every day.
That's right. And then the last one is be intentional. Draft the family mission. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But I want to start by going back and saying, look, we have to get the foundation right if we want to be legacy-minded with our kids. And we need to not sugarcoat it, right? Does this mean if you've gotten divorced or you haven't done things right in the past, it's just hopeless? No. But it does mean if you're considering divorce right now because you just don't really like the person that you're with and you have kids, you are contemplating going down a road that is not only not in their best interest, but is super destructive for your kids and the legacy that you're going to leave behind. Don't lie to yourself and say, well, they're going to be better off. Well, we fight a lot and they're exposed to that. There is just simply nothing better than loving their mom or dad no matter what.
Yeah, and if you think
what you said is right, getting it right.
And if you think you can't, then you're severely underestimating the God you serve. Well, or you don't serve that God.
Right.
I promise you, God is bigger than the problems.
Yeah, and your children's view of God. So if you are a Christian or you profess faith in God, I'm guessing in that case it matters to you what your children think about God. Your children their view of God, his authority in their lives, his tenderness towards them, his caring of them is going to be directly related to how you display that same tenderness, care, and submission in your own life. So you might be in a place right now in your marriage, and our hearts break for you if you are, where you just want anything in the world except to stay married to the person that you're married with. But particularly if you claim a faith in the Lord, you are going, your response in this moment to the calling of a God-honoring marriage is going to impact them forever. In the same way, how you treat your spouse is going to impact them forever. Do you love their mother? Do you respect their father, even when he doesn't deserve respect, even when she doesn't deserve love? How do you display the care that you have for their mom and dad? Particularly if you are a mother and you have sons, your son is likely to marry a woman that's very similar to you. Strengths and flaws. Same way husbands or dads with your daughter's future husbands. Like the way that you act is going to define what it is that they see as beautiful and desirable because they look up to you so much, particularly when they're young. And then that gets perpetuated on to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. Andrea and I watched a fascinating video of it took two guys. One was a godly man and one was a scoundrel from like the 1800s and followed them forward to today and then put together a list of what their legacy was in broad terms. And the righteous man was like, it was John Edwards, the vice president, it was his like ancestor, and so it was a vice president and a whole bunch of pastors and doctors and like all this success. And then the ancestors of the scoundrel was like all these guys that have gone to prison and murders and assaults and just all this kinds of chaos. And I thought, man, does every person who's a bad person have a legacy that is an absolute train wreck? Well, no, but it takes it takes darn near an act of God to cut that off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my dad, is in a line of that really struggled in a lot of areas, and he, through a lot of submission, the Lord cut that off, and I respect the heck out of him for that. But it would have been very easy for him to just keep perpetuating those same sin issues. So you're the one that determines that. It's not what you tell your kids, it's what you do that's going to determine this. Like, we all want to tell our kids the right stuff. And even Andrea and I are probably better at telling our kids the right stuff than we are at showing our kids the right stuff.
Of course.
But it's what you do that's going to matter to them, not just what you say.
Yep.
Okay. Trading the eternal, the long-term valuable for the convenient. Boy, if this isn't like the biggest trap in parenting.
Yeah.
Because, two of our kids are fighting, and what do you want to do?
Kick them out? Oh, that's not what we should do. I just want it to stop.
Right.
Right? You just kind of want to find whatever will get them to stop.
That's right. So here's an example that's probably relatable to everyone that's listening. You're at the grocery store.
Ugh. Don't ever take your kids to the grocery store.
And one of your kids sees a type of cereal in the cereal aisle that they would like.
Mm-hmm.
But it's expensive. What do you tell that child? Assuming, hey, this isn't really in the budget, like not something we're here to get. What are you going to tell them?
Yeah, we're not getting that cereal.
Right. And your young child is likely to do the lay on the ground, kicking, slowly moving around in a circle while laying on the ground, full-on tantrum.
Well,
and
at some point in their life, probably. Not every time, maybe, but.
And what's the temptation in that moment as a parent?
To give in and just
because it's
to
embarrassing.
just get it to stop. Right.
It's embarrassing. We just want them to stop. Like, this is not the place to do the full-on discipline. Like, there's every reason to give in to their sinful behavior.
And if you're a first-time parent and you have a toddler, you're probably saying, like, no, we follow through. We get about 4 or 5 children down the line, and your resolve to stick with what you said becomes a little bit less and less. Like my number 5 has not been parented with as much gumption as far as like sticking to when I said no, staying with that, as my first, because it's not right, but it gets hard to stay, especially if you've got years of tantrums and you've got multiple kids that, all that sort of thing. It gets hard sometimes to stick with parenting with a legacy mindset. Yeah. And I just want to encourage you, it's worth it. Don't backslide in your own parenting and give up that. Yeah. Trade what is it? The soup?
Trade the soup for
the
birthright.
The birthright. Short-term gains,
Yep.
Finish well.
Yeah. So with little kids, it's the giving into the tantrum, or the other thing I see a lot is I'm going to count to 3 and then whatever. 1, 2, and then there's usually a really long pause. 2.5.
3. Yeah.
Right. I mean, what's happening there is you're training your child that your word's not your word.
Well,
that isn't going to work long term.
Bigger part of that is what we should be doing is training our children to have obedient, loving relationship with the Lord.
Right.
That's what we're training our children. And if we are, as parents, giving them time and 5 chances to do the right thing and counting to 3 and all of that. We're training them that they don't actually need to listen to the Lord until the Lord yells or until the Lord's counted to 3, in quotations, until things are so bad. And then, I guess he really means it.
Yeah. And the Lord doesn't actually count to 3.
You know what I'm saying though?
Like you and that. No, but I'm saying like that's
right.
That's actually a bad thing too. Cause it teaches them like, okay, when my dad says to do something, what he actually means is in 3 seconds.
He doesn't actually mean it. Right. So we as parents need to remember that we are training them for relationship with the Lord. And when the Lord asks us to do something, we should obediently and joyfully be doing that.
Right.
So that's why it's important to teach our kids to do that. Not because it makes our lives easier, because it does. If we train them to be obedient right away with a joyful heart. But I want them to do that with the Lord. I want their life to be marked by joyful, immediate obedience to the God that they serve.
Right. So younger kids is kind of, for me, the main thing is about teaching them obedience and authority. Those middle ages, obviously, this is not in lieu of obedience and authority because that's a lifelong thing. But where I think we get it wrong in the modern world with those middle ages, say the 6, 7, 8 to 12, 13, 14, is teaching our kids about godly priorities. We get them involved in sports that take up all of our time. So we're racing around from one thing to the next thing. They're incredibly expensive. And it's not just sports. It could be any number of activities.
Right.
But we get them involved in just doing stuff. And we start teaching this narrative that what it means to be successful is to just be busy all the time.
Yep.
And that is not a biblical definition of success.
Most of the time when you ask somebody, hey, how are you? What is their answer?
I'm so busy.
So busy.
And we take this like, that's wow,
great.
That's really
like that's
good
really
for
something
you.
It's really something to be busy.
Right. And
it's
we're
really
teaching
not
that to our young kids. And the problem is what we're teaching them is the priority's not growing in understanding of the Lord, growing in obedience to Him, growing in submission to His call on our life. It's certainly not about spending time in the garden like Jesus did in the evening and in the morning, seeking out the Lord. It's just running from one thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And needing to be elite at everything.
Yeah.
Man, just be so careful about defining what it means to be a success with your 5 to 15-year-old kids, because they're in that age where they're beyond like little kids. They're starting to think about being grown-ups, and they're learning like, hey, I want to be successful. Like I want to do life well, and you're going to define what that looks like in these years. So be so careful about just giving up the liturgy of the family to be busy and running around and pursuing worldly success. Then when we get to the upper years, I'm reminded of Jesus' caution to us. Don't just be hearers of the word,
but be doers.
But be doers of the word.
Man, if my kids haven't heard that so many times.
But when we get to be, you're right, and it's great that they have. But I think of, our oldest child specifically, and I think, man, dude, you know the right stuff. But has it made its way from your head to your heart? Because I don't want you to just know a bunch of good things about the Lord. I want it to take root deep in your heart and come out in the way that you treat other people.
Yep.
And boy, that starts with me. Like that starts with me being a man that isn't just a hearer of the word, but a doer of the word. And then calling him to that same level of understanding and wisdom. Remember, we're architecting their foundation during this time. So when we discipline, we're carving the rocks that are going to be the foundation of their lives. I don't know about you. I have seen rock carving in the past. It's so much fun to watch.
Oh,
People
yeah.
are amazing that do that. But the thing I'm struck by as I think about this is I understand rocks don't have nerves. But if they did, it probably wouldn't feel real great for the rock. I mean, it's being sliced up by these sharp objects and hammers and all the rest to look like what the artist has in mind. Do you have something in mind for your kids? If you don't, you should, because you're going to define what that is. But here's the thing, it's going to hurt them a little bit. Not physically. I mean, when you give them the rod of discipline, as we're called to do in the Bible, it might hurt them physically. But discipline doesn't feel great. That's just the way it is. Discipline doesn't feel great. And it's exhausting. And the temptation is always there to just let bad behavior slide. Don't do that. Because if your child grows up and they have a weak or cracked foundation, it's probably your fault. So take seriously building that foundation right now.
Yeah, the Lord in the Bible talks about he disciplines those he loves. And same with us as parents. I discipline my children because I love them, not because I'm angry with them or I'm trying to make my life easier or any of that kind of thing. I love them. So I don't want them to continue in this foolishness and take that into their next stage of life or to adulthood. I want them to learn now in my home to be obedient to me, but ultimately to the Lord. And so I discipline them because I love them. It would be way easier to just give them what they want, to get them to be quiet, or to just not discipline them and let them run amok and I do my own thing. That'd be an easy thing, and it's a tempting thing sometimes. But we know that the Lord talks in the Bible about he disciplines those he loves, and as parents, same. And our kids may not understand that. That's okay. My kids tell me all the time that I don't love them when I'm disciplining them. They don't have to understand it, but they'll get it when they're older.
Right.
And not just as I get it now as an adult with my parents, and then telling me this hurts me more than it hurts you, and I love you, and that's why I just all that sort of thing. I get it now, and they'll get it too. So love your children well by disciplining them, by parenting well for the sake of helping to build their foundation and helping to continue on in the legacy, not for you or for your glory, but for the Lord's glory.
That's great. Yeah. Last point I want to make in this section, and we're going to talk about drafting the family mission, and we'll wrap it up. In the same way that an architect of a home hires contractors to do the actual building, as parents, we bring on a whole bunch of other people to help us raise our kids. Mm-hmm. And that's necessary, right? Like I'm a firm believer that it does take a community to raise children because there's so many different perspectives we bring in when we have a solid community. Parenting can be exhausting. It's helpful to have others involved in that process. And also there's a lot, like I'm a fairly intelligent guy. I'm not a doctor. So if my children need a doctor, I take them to a contractor to do that. A parenting contractor who is helping my children in that way. How often do we stop and think about the effect those contractors are having?
No, yeah.
And maybe the doctor, maybe you go, why don't we see him like twice a year, so it pretty much has no impact. Yeah. What about the school?
Or
that your kids go to?
Coach.
What about the baseball team or football team or coaching staff that you have your children with? What about the dance instructor? What about your sister that wants to come over and hang out? Like, what about the babysitters that you have watch your kids when you guys go out? Like, are you thinking about the effect these contractors are having? If you're not, you should, because you may be paying for someone to undermine the legacy that you're trying to build in your kids. So it's worth thinking about who are these people that we have around our kids and what effect are they having?
Yep.
Okay, family mission. Let's get practical here for a minute. Here's what I want to challenge you to do. And I want to challenge us to go back and do this. We did it a long time ago, but I want to do it again now that we have 1 million children. define your family way. So what I want you to do is put together a list of, I want you to shoot for 10, can be more if you think of more, but I want you to shoot for 10 active we are statements. The Warnock way is, and then 1, we are the first to apologize. We are the first to forgive. We are people of the Word of God. Right? Like put together, start the sentence with we are, and then put in what are these, if there were going to be 10 things that we wanted people to say, the Warnocks are this. Mm-hmm. Put those down. We are people that work hard. Like they don't all have to be spiritual necessarily. But put those down on paper and then look at them. And I would encourage you, once you've looked at those a couple of times and you go, yeah, maybe you made some revisions, maybe you took one away, maybe added 1 or 2. Once you have that list together, have it printed and put it in like a nice frame and put it somewhere where your children will see it and go back to that. Like, child that just punched his brother, remember, we are the first to apologize. And get away from the, well, but you should have seen what he... No. Like, if he did something wrong to you, then he should be the first to apologize. But we are the first to apologize.
Yeah, and for a lot of these, I would really encourage you to put verses with those too. And not everything has to have a Bible verse, but for forgiving and apologizing, there can definitely be some scripture added to that so that you know what the Lord has to say about that.
Right. And some of these things, I mean, there are things in here, you know... we are a family that rejects social media. Like that's a admirable thing, I think, for a family to choose as part of what they do. And you may go, well, there ain't going to be any verse in the Bible for that. To which I would say, well, but then why are you doing it? Like because I think what you're actually saying when you do that is we are people who take captive every thought.
Yeah.
So put those we are statements together. Put pen to paper for that. The other thing is have a rite of passage for your kids. I think this is so important. It's something we see in the Bible, and we don't do a very good job of it necessarily in the modern age. But when your boys and girls are 12, 13, 14, we do it at 13 in our family. Take that child, and here's what I like. Take them away and do something hard. Mm-hmm. Like for our kids, when they're 13, we take them to Colorado and we climb
Pikes
Peak, 14,000 and some foot altitude. It's a hard climb. It takes somewhere between 7 and 9 hours of walking to climb it. Of course, we're stopping and eating meals. We're stopping and looking at the sights. I take that as an opportunity to share with our kids the struggles that Andrea and I went through in our marriage. With the boys, it's just me and them. With Ryan and Lila, assuming I can still walk when Lila is that age, Andrea will come with too, and because they're becoming a young woman at that point. But we put a marker of this is a rite of passage for you. I encourage you to do that. It sort of launches them off and makes them think about their life as an adult, which pays dividends on down the line in legacy. Here's the last thing that I would say, just to visualize, because I think it can be helpful. I want you to visualize your family dinner table 50 years from now. What stories are being told about Grandpa Nathan and Grandma Andrea? Like, what are the things that people are saying about us? Certainly there will be, sadly, some things that I probably wish weren't being said about me, because I'm a flawed human being. But I hope that the overwhelming majority of things are things that people admired or they were challenged by me, that they're putting into their own family, instilling in their own kids, passing on down the line. That's legacy. So for you, what are your kids going to say? You might be dating right now. You might go, having kids feels like forever away. Build the disciplines now that when you do have kids, you're ready to hit the ground running with regards to raising those kids. So that's the question. You're sitting at a table 50 years from now. What are your ancestors? What stories are they telling? What traits are they highlighting about you and your spouse? That's something for you to ponder this week as you think about this episode of Marriage by Design. Thanks, guys, so much for joining us. I hope you're challenged. I know we were as we think about our own legacy building. If you have questions, you're always welcome to reach out to us, marriagebydesignpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can put any number of comments in the comment sections below. We read and respond to every one of those. There you have it. Until next Monday, thanks for joining us. And remember, God is for your marriage. Have a good week.
Thanks so much for listening. We just wanted to say, if you have a comment, a question, something that you're struggling with or need prayer, please reach out to us. You can get a hold of us by emailing marriagebydesignpodcast@gmail.com, or of course you can comment on any of our social media and we will get back to you. But if you have something private, feel free to email us. We're happy to personally respond to you.
That's right. And we do respond to every comment that we receive, either through our website, through YouTube, through our social medias, which leads me to feel free to pop over to our website, marriagebydesignpodcast.com. You can leave comments on any of our videos through that site. We would love to be able to connect with you, but please don't hesitate to reach out. Even if you just need prayer, you need someone to hear what you're going through, we're here for the Marriage by Design community, so feel free to reach out anytime. Until then, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you next time.